What's up, everybody? It's your favorite 501 time and 12's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the X-Transbots Fuzz. Cool name for him. And this was sent to me by X-Transbots themselves, which is a first for me. I think I owe a lot of credit to Mike L for that, for setting that up. I certainly won't look a gift horse in the mouth. Do you know why it's not good to look a gift horse in the mouth? Because you could tell the horse's age from the teeth. So if you were gifted a horse, it was best not to look in the mouth, because then you might feel differently about the quality of gift you were given. There's your fun fact for the day. So I am anxious to take a look at this guy. As you well know, I'm very anxious to get Protectobots in general. We're going to have a monumentous event at some point during this review. You'll see it when it happens. But in order to do any of that, this doesn't come with instructions, by the way. Like, he sent me some in a PDF, I think. So, you know, I got hard enough time with the regular ones. So, you know, bear with me. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. But in order to start, we got to look at accessories. So he comes with 3 different faces, plus obviously the one that you saw in the opening footage. This one has more of like a human robot face, and the visor here is a separate piece because this one's kind of like the mold difference of it requires it. You just slide the visor on and then you replace the face. This one, it would probably be my choice if I was keeping these guys as my robots, but I plan on having these guys as my Defensor. You get this one, kind of like a very similar face to the one that he comes with, but a little bit angrier, and the face shields on the side are a different shape. And then you get this one, once again, the shapes on the side are a different shape. The nose is obviously a different plate over top, and then the chin is different. So, like, I'm sure one is a toy, one is a reference to something else, and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But the nice thing is you get the options. He comes with a gun. It's sculpted well enough, and it looks as though it is painted as well, which is nice. And he'll hold that just fine. And as far as storing it, there's 2 pegs here on between the legs, so to speak. I'm not sure the light is picking it up. There's one here and one here. If you take the gun, fold it in half, and line it up as carefully as you can, then you can store the weapon. So that works fine. Gimmicks-wise, his light bar does light up. You need LR521 batteries. I certainly don't have anything remotely close. I got double A's, Mac. but it does light up, and that's what you need. So let's talk about the figure. All right. Head sculpt looks pretty good. Let me try to zoom in a bit there. Pretty sharp. We got paint on the red. The whole thing might be painted, honestly. But at the very minimum, the red and the blue. And there's a blue line underneath the red before the kind of grayish off-white color. So, looks good to me. It's on a hinge swivel, so you get the swivel, you get the hinge for a great up. Not the best down, unfortunately, just the slightest bit. But that's a bit of a bummer. But otherwise, it's all in there. All right, so the shoulders. The shoulders are a little wonky. So they're hinged here, right, on a pin, and that gets you a butterfly joint a little bit back and slightly forward. You can see it's this piece here that prevents it from moving any more forward, I should say. It comes out on this armature to a ball peg, which is a little strange, but you're going to get the full rotation of the ball peg up to 90 degrees and around. And then you get, do you get anything on? No, not really. So it's ultimately fine. However, it does feel a little finicky, maybe is the right word, or it doesn't feel super solid. But it doesn't feel bad, and it works, but it's a little off-putting. All right, so then we have the gray here. This looks all painted to me on the arm as well, and the bicep. You do get a bicep swivel. You get a double hinged elbow that gets you a great range. You have some of the card details that come through in the arm, but I kind of like it. You know, I think it adds a little bit of character. However, on the underside, leaves a little bit to be desired for sure. I do like the details of the tire coming through in bot mode too. It just gives it a little bit of flavor. I like that a lot. There's like a gold and a silver paint app added. And then for the wrist, they're actually well articulated. You get a swivel. You get a hinge here at the base of the palm, and then of course the fingers are on a base pen knuckle. However, they are tight writer fingers, so they're kind of, you know, you either leave them kind of relaxed, you know, or a fist, but you're not going to get anything else out of them, which I think is ultimately fine. And then you can, like, you know, with the hinge there at the wrist, you can get a little bit of extra kind of sauce on the style of the fist. So I'm good with all of that. No issues. Same for the other side. Now, for the torso, you get this like kind of like a tinted transparent, translucent plastic here for the windshield. I think it does a decent enough job, and it's kind of smoked out a little bit, so you can't really see all the full details behind it. You can definitely see some of it, don't get me wrong, but we've seen worse, so I think that this was well done. Then you have a waist swivel, and all the way around, and you have a ab crunch that gets you pretty much 90 degrees over. So all of that looks good to me. For the pelvis, you do have waist flaps here, and then you have universals. They're tensioned, no ratchets either way, for the full Van Damme and beyond, honestly. And the full Monty, so no issues there. Thigh swivel built into the bottom of the universal, that works fine. And then we have the red paint on the die cast here, and then we have double jointed knees. Now, the initial ratchet here is really tight, so something that they might want to think about for you know, production. And then 90 degrees out. But yeah, that works well, and I like the little extra sculpted detail in the thighs there. All right, moving on to the lower part of the figure, we got full paint once again. The tires come through once again, little red bit there for the car details, and the ankles. And then you get the little star there on the car, which is a nice little touch. But ankles, you get an ankle tilt down, up. Mine are a little loose, so, but obviously this is pre-production, right? And then a rocker. A little limited, but you do have it for sure. And then you have a heel spur that you can use to help kind of guide your the balance of the figure. So all of that works well. Overall proportions of her, I think work pretty well. If I was to nitpick, I would say that I would like the shoulders up a little bit and the thighs up a little bit, like that, you know, the casing here that covers, like if it went up to here, because the difference in red there is slightly off-putting, but I'm nitpicking. It's a really good looking figure. There it is from the back. You know, tons of screws. This is a little much, but for the most part, I think it's fine. I only say that this is a little much because some of this does come through when you're posing the figure. For the most part, who's going to look at the figure from the back, right? I think overall it's pretty well done. There's a lot of die cast in this guy, so, you know, be cautious. I would advise them to be cautious moving forward, especially with the arms, when you start getting into a lot of the weight bearing for combined mode. But otherwise, yeah, it looks great. So here is a size comparison. I think this is really worth looking at. So he's going to be about the same size as their Stunticon, so all of their combiner bots are going to scale roughly together. He's also going to be smaller theoretically than the MMC bots, which I also think is important because people are trying to choose what to go for. I've told you that I'm going to go for MMC for robot and then XTB for combined. And that is going to scale better with my combine or my individual bots and masterpiece scale anyway. The MMC is still a little bit shorter than the Fans Toys, for instance. However, it's a little bit closer than the XTB. So this just sort of reinforces my approach, which was X-Transbots for combine mode, MMC for robot mode. However, the good news is if you're going X-Transbots for all of it, the X-Transbots are going to scale perfectly well together. Monumentous event. I finally have a Protectabot on my shelf. Long time coming. One lonely Protectabot, but beats no Protectabots, Mac. Alright, let's get him transformed. You know this isn't my strong suit, and I'm working off of a laptop with directions on it, so just forgive me in advance. We're going to start with this arm. This hand is attached to this whole plate here. I want to point out that we're going to disconnect this. There's this little thin piece of plastic there. Just be cautious of that. It does make it look a little cleaner in robot mode, but it probably should just be removed because it just, I I think mine is already stressing here on this side. So just be cautious. All right. We have a number of pieces that have to move here. One of which is this one. You see this one piece here that's like bent where the two pins are. That needs to straighten. So that's on a double hinge. That will come out. You straighten that. And then this piece here needs to come out also. And then rotate 180. And then that'll plug back in to finish off the bumper, and then you can kind of just sit it back where it was. Now we need to do some rotation. So rotate the hand piece. This is on a slider also, but it holds the hand underneath in the front of the car to the front of the car. There's a latch here that locks, similar to what we've seen with the Stunicons. Unlock that, and that will allow basically a swivel where the forearm is for 180. Now we got some flaps to flip on the back of the shoulder. So flip this piece up. This piece is like an L-shaped piece down, and then this piece will swing across the back. Now let's catch this other arm up real quick. So open up the wrist here. We're going to separate this section, flatten out that so that the red forms straight across, but we need to pull that out on a slider, spin that around 180, and then connect it back in. And we're going to rotate our hand underneath and bring this out to the front. Unlock this section here and rotate 180. And then on the back of the shoulder, we're going to flip this flap up, this flap down, and this piece across. Open the backpack, you can close this piece. Now, where these shoulders are, you've got to pull them out from the chest just a little bit. And it's very subtle, but you see there? Just like that much. A little bit more on this side. And flatten the head by rotating it back. Let me back out just a taste. And then you can lift up this whole front piece here and start rotating out these fenders. Separate this faux windshield here from the hood so that you kind of get the shoulders up and over. And then swing the shoulders out at the screw there. To kind of get them all up. Like this thing explodes, so to speak. Now let's form up the front of the hood by just connecting the two side fender pieces, and then this piece here flips 180. This part is especially tricky. So this section swivels, this hinges, and that swivels at the shoulder. And if you can see how this is oriented here, this piece, this armature comes down towards you, then the bump out piece that we pulled out, and then the hinge, and then the L is facing up, right? And we need to get the L facing down with the shoulders facing up. So you got to spin the shoulder as you're spinning the armature so that this piece sits inside of there, but I still managed to do it wrong. That is what you're looking for. So once again, the armature with the little bump out piece to the L, which is now facing down to the shoulder, and now the shoulder is pushing the arm piece forward. So I'll try it again, and like I said, it's very tricky, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm even doing it, but there. So it's just a matter of messing with it until you've got it. But what you need are those L's here on the side pieces facing down. And now you have the front of the car to kind of put together. Once again, L's facing down, shoulders facing up. You can see these two, there's a massive peg here between these two shoulders. And then there's a peg on the inside of here that goes to the inside of the fender here on both sides. These two pieces clip together, and then there's two tabs that are facing down that go into the front of the hood. And we're just gonna mess with it a bit and see how close we can get it. And I'll cut if I have to try to get it closer. But we're just trying to get all of these. There's just a lot that has to kind of line up. So we're getting there. But it's coming loose. So I'm gonna mess with it until I have it tight and we'll come back. So this is the best that I have it right now. And I feel like I can do even better. But we got the arms all inside. The front of the car is pretty much solid. And I got these two bars still sticking out of the bottom. The hands are tucked up underneath. It doesn't really matter exactly where they are as long as they have the clearance there. I got these biceps there that are together, and this, and then I got my steering wheel pushed around to the inside. So we'll pick up with the legs. For the legs, we're gonna collapse the feet and then flip this little piece out here. And then we want the foot and this piece to kind of swap spots. So if you bring this out to 90 degrees and then use it as a lever to bring that down to the bottom, and then you can get the foot out of the way. Then on the underside of the foot, rotate the foot in and then back in, and then you can bring that piece back down. Then you're just left with the car seat and stuff, so flip that up, rotate that to the appropriate place, and then swing the door around with the window to kind of collapse around it, like to form the car. So let's catch the other leg up, bend the heel to the toe, and flip this little piece out. You want to bring this out to 90 degrees, and this, flip the foot in from the underside, flip the foot towards the car, tuck it in, tuck that piece in. Then you just have to make the car seat make sense, so flip it up, around, bring the window up, bring this around. And then you want to bring both legs to 90 degrees on the ratchet that's a little tough. And then around and underneath so that it starts to come together as a car. Rotate your light bar as well. And this is another one aspect of just kind of bringing all the pieces together, tabbing it all in. And I'm not going to film this for 45 minutes. So let me work on it a bit and see what I can discover. But you can see how it's supposed to come together. Whew. And that's pretty close. I had to rework a couple things that like just weren't lined up quite right. And if you go back, you'll be able to look, and I'm sure that, you know, other reviewers will come along and do a better job of transformation. But you need this like black translucent piece inside of here completely flat. And in order to do that, you follow the steps that I do. However, during the course of mine, some of the like the back shoulders that had to be straightened, like ended like the flip down, flip back up, like just during the course of transformation. So just be mindful of all that. Flip the bumper out, and those two pieces go to the front, and that's my last nightmare. And then this piece comes around, and the bumper plugs into the back, and basically all of that needs to be tightened up. But it's there's not a lot of room for error here, it seems. So I'm going to tighten it up and get it as close as I can. But whew, it's a rough one. It goes from bot to car. At least it came packaged in bot mode. so it might, you know, help you understand it more if it comes the opposite way. I was actually surprised that it came this way, but yeah, it's not the easiest or most intuitive. And there we have it. And I think that's pretty close. As you can see, there's a slight gap here, but I think I've got it pretty close. Rolls like a champ. The doors do open. I'm somewhat reluctant to do so, but they do open. Oh no. There. And that actually might solve the door problem. Inside there's a steering wheel and obviously a seat, and that gives you an idea of what it should look like on the inside too for when you're transforming it. And the head should pretty much sit, you know, parallel with the roof of the car and the floorboard here. And then, no, didn't quite solve it. This door opens as well. Might as well see if there's a problem on this side. Yeah. Take the gun off. There. But yeah, it doesn't quite solve the problem. Maybe it's a little closer. I don't know. We got the star here, which is fine. You know, it does a pretty good job. It's just hard getting everything lined up. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of room for error. There it is underneath. Back of it looks great with all the kind of brake lights and stuff. It's very kind of reminiscent of the G1 model. Obviously having the lights light up is a cool feature, but I don't have that because I don't have those batteries. I got double A's. And yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's heavy, you know, very heavy. And there it is next to Tiger Track, so pretty much on point with a Masterpiece scaled car. Yeah, not the easiest transformation, I'll say. You know, especially coming off the Stunticons, which are all car bots as well, and kind of relatively intuitive. This one was challenging. You know, and some people that's what gets them off, but not this guy. But I think it does a good job, though, ultimately. All right, final thoughts. Let's start with the negatives. That small little plastic tab at the wrist is potentially a problem. Just be cautious of it, be mindful of it, and you should be fine. And to be fair, the wrist connection in general is kind of weak. There's a lot of moving pieces up there around that forearm, and unfortunately, it doesn't quite feel perfectly cemented there. The shoulders are a problem. They feel wonky in robot mode, and they also require really strict attention to detail when going through the transformation process in order to make it work. So when you're transforming this guy, focus on those shoulders, be very mindful of all the moving pieces. And unfortunately, they don't do a great job in robot mode either, so honestly, they probably should have been reworked. The knee ratchet is too tight. That's just an assembly issue. That's something that they can fix before this stuff goes to market. I recommend that they do. And it would have been nice to have a little bit more head down articulation, but that's a nitpick for sure. The last thing I obviously have to comment is the transformation. Now, it's not like I've spent 6 months with this thing. I'm trying to get the video out ASAP, and you have to go from bot to vehicle, which is always more challenging. That's why most people review from vehicle to bot. But that being said, it's a tough one, and it's a tough one because of the amount of moving pieces specifically located around the shoulders. Be extremely mindful. It is not a user-friendly transformation. It's not impossible, and I've certainly seen worse, but there's not a lot of elegance here, and it does require an awful lot of attention. But honestly, that's about it for negatives. On to the positives. It's painted beautifully. That's something that we kind of have to expect from X-Transbots these days. They've been painting their figures from top to bottom. The sculpt is great. The alternate faces are a nice touch. And this thing is super well articulated. Yes, I could use a little bit more down for the head. Yes, I could use a little bit more of an ankle rocker, but by and large, this thing is really well articulated. The materials feel good, the plastics feel good, and the die cast feel good. Feels good. I would warn X-Transbots about super heavy arms, but that's something to think about in the future. All in all, it's a really, really, really well done figure in terms of paint, materials, articulation, and sculpt, both in robot and alt mode. So all of the things that I care about, this thing checks from top to bottom. Just really keep those shoulders and your frontal lobe, both in transformation and in articulation. And as far as X-Transbots being able to fix something before it goes to market, the knee ratchet tolerance is something that can be done. So I hope that helps, not only you guys, but them as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.